I sat across from Olivia at our kitchen table, the soft hum of the dishwasher in the background, and stared at her face. Expectant, a little tense, like she was holding her breath. I had just finished a long day at work, and all I wanted was to relax. Maybe binge-watch a few episodes of that show we were into, but Olivia had other plans. You know, Evan, she started, her voice sharper than usual. I've been thinking a lot lately. She paused, eyes glued to mine like she was waiting for me to catch up. I didn't. About what? I asked, trying to sound casual, though I could feel the tightness building in my chest. About us. She leaned forward, hands wrapped around her coffee cup. About the future. My friends are getting engaged, and I'm almost 30. I'm not getting any younger. Evan, I want to know where we stand. I need to know if you're serious about me. I blinked, thrown off guard. Serious? We'd been together for 5 years, lived together for 3. Wasn't that serious enough? She continued, eyes narrowing. I'm not going to wait forever. If you're not ready to take that next step, then maybe we shouldn't be together anymore. Her words slammed into me, and I didn't know how to react. Marriage, proposal, that was never something I had thought much about, at least not with her. Sure, we talked about it casually, but I never expected a deadline. I understand, was all I could muster. I tried not to let my confusion show, but inside, my mind was spinning. Was I ready for marriage? Did I even want to get married? I'd always figured if it happened, it'd happen. But now it felt more like a choice being forced down my throat. Olivia was great, smart, beautiful, funny, driven. But lately, something had felt off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I knew I wasn't sure I wanted to move forward. Not like this, not on her terms. Okay, so, by the end of the month, right? She asked, her voice a little softer now, but still expectant. I nodded, but I wasn't sure if I was agreeing to what she wanted, or just saying it because I didn't know how to say anything else. The days after Olivia's ultimatum blurred into each other, like a fog I couldn't shake. I kept thinking about it, what she said, what I didn't say, and it gnawed at me deeper than I cared to admit. I'd say I needed time to think, but I was already pretty sure where my mind was headed. It wasn't about marriage. It wasn't even about the damn proposal. It was about what she was really asking for. I thought about those little things that had bugged me, stuff I'd brushed off before. The way she talked about weddings, how she'd make these comments like she had the whole future mapped out for us. Can you picture our life in the suburbs, babe? Or when we're married, let's make sure we travel more. She never asked me what I wanted. It was always her dream we were living in, her idea of where our relationship should go. And sure, I went along with it, but I could never shake the feeling that it wasn't about us. It was about her. Then there was Instagram. Always Instagram. She'd post pictures of us, tagged with #couplegoals, captions about how lucky she was, about how we were so in love. I couldn't tell if she really felt that way or if she just wanted to show the world that she was winning at the whole perfect relationship thing. And the wedding talk, God, it was like a never-ending loop. Her friends would send her wedding ideas, and Olivia would show them to me like it was normal. Like I was supposed to help pick out flowers when I wasn't even sure I was ready for this. She'd discuss bridal party sizes, venue costs, all of it, and the when and how but never if. I started to see it for what it was. To her, I wasn't a partner. I was a step in her journey, a box to check off before she moved on to the next milestone in her life. I wasn't a part of her future. I was just an accessory to it, and I wasn't okay with that. I wasn't going to marry someone who had an idea of who I should be, who I should become, to fit into her perfect picture. I didn't want to be part of her checklist anymore. I wasn't some afterthought, some next step. I wasn't a rung on the ladder. I didn't need to wait any longer to make my decision. I needed to end it now before it got worse. I was done playing this game. I wasn't going to wait until the end of the month. No more pretending that this was going to work. I could feel the weight lifting off me already, just thinking about it. I made a plan. I'd do it on my terms. I wasn't going to drag it out or let her think I was uncertain. I'd be direct. I'd be clear. And I'd do it somewhere she'd never forget it. I booked a table at the nicest restaurant in town. The one with the candlelit dinners, the kind of place where people went to get engaged. I knew it was dramatic, but I didn't care. It would be perfect. Set the stage. Make her believe this was all going according to her plan. Until it wasn't. Until I flipped it. I didn't tell her what I was planning, of course. I played along, letting her think I was mulling it over, letting her think I was about to cave. I didn't owe her any explanations yet. I just needed her to feel what I felt, to feel the weight of her expectations pushing down on me until she couldn't breathe, until she realized just how suffocating it all was. The decision was made. And as I dialed the restaurant to confirm the reservation, a sense of calm washed over me. I was about to give Olivia something she never expected. And this time, the tables were turning. I called the restaurant the next morning, making sure to reserve the perfect table. The one in the corner, near the window, where the lighting made everything look romantic and soft. The kind of place where every person who walked in probably had an idea of what they were there for. Engagements, anniversaries, milestones. It was all too perfect. I ordered flowers to be delivered, fresh white lilies. I don't know why. Maybe they were classic. Maybe they just felt right. But they'd be sitting on the table when we walked in. Candles would be flickering, soft light spilling everywhere. Just like the Instagram posts Olivia always dreamed of. I wanted everything to look flawless, just like the proposal she was expecting, only to rip the rug out from under her. I didn't tell her any of this, of course. The last thing I needed was to have her snooping or second-guessing the plan. 2 days later, I was sitting at my desk when my phone buzzed, and I saw her name on the screen. I picked it up without thinking. "Hey, babe," I said, trying to keep my voice even. But inside, I felt a little spark of excitement. I'd been playing this part so well. "Have you thought more about the proposal?" Olivia asked. The tone in her voice was eager, too eager, like she was already picturing the ring on her finger. It made me cringe, but I kept it together. "Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot," I replied, keeping my voice low, as if the weight of the decision was just as serious as she'd hoped. "I think I'm ready." Her response was immediate, too immediate. "Really? Oh my God. Evan, that makes me so happy. I knew you were just taking some time to think it through. I'm glad you're on the same page now." I heard the excitement in her voice, her words tumbling over each other. It felt like she was trying to convince herself just as much as she was convincing me. I kept my mouth shut, letting the silence stretch, just enough to let her feel the suspense. "Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I think it's time." She squealed a little on the other end. "I knew you'd come around. Can't wait. Let's talk details tonight. I'll pick out a dress. We can start planning the engagement party. This is going to be perfect." I almost gagged. The word perfect felt like a knife, but I didn't let it show. "Sounds good," I said, pushing down the knot that had started to form in my stomach. "We'll talk more tonight." She hung up with a giggle, and I just sat there for a second, the phone pressed to my ear, trying to shake off the feeling of disgust creeping up from the pit of my stomach. I had to do this. It wasn't just about confronting her. It was about finally making her see me for what I was. A real person with real feelings, not just a pawn in her plan. That night, I picked her up, her face glowing like she was already imagining the ring on her finger. I played along, even though my insides were screaming to just skip the damn dinner and tell her everything right then. But I held it together. The candles, the soft music in the background. It all felt so staged, so fake. The waiters treated us like royalty. Everything gliding smoothly like this was the night she'd been waiting for. And I let it all happen, playing my role like she had played hers. I wasn't going to let her rush me. Not anymore. The flowers were already on the table when we got there. Perfectly arranged, sitting in the center like the whole world was focused on them. She barely noticed anything except the little smile on my face. "Isn't this just perfect?" she asked, her voice practically dripping with anticipation. I smiled, nodding. "Yeah, it really is." But inside, I was already preparing myself for what was next. We walked into the restaurant, and Olivia's heels clicked on the marble floor like she was walking straight into a dream. She looked amazing, dressed in that black dress I'd bought her for her birthday a few months ago. Her makeup was flawless, her hair in perfect waves, and she was glowing, practically vibrating with excitement. I could already see it on her face. The expectation, the hope. She was convinced this was it. We were led to the corner table, the one with the perfect view of the city skyline. She smiled at the candles flickering softly, the soft jazz music in the background, the way the place was bathed in dim golden light. She practically melted into the chair, staring at the flowers like she was already imagining what it'd look like when she showed them off to her friends. "This is everything I've always dreamed of," she said, her voice almost reverent as she stared at the table setting. "I can't wait to tell everyone how romantic you are. You really know how to make a moment special, Evan." I just nodded, offering a tight smile. My stomach was starting to twist. Felt wrong playing along with this charade, but I knew I had to do it. As the waiter handed us the menus, she leaned across the table, practically beaming. "I've been thinking about our wedding a lot lately," she said, her voice barely able to contain her excitement. "We'll need a big venue, maybe somewhere with a beach. I've always dreamed of a beach wedding, you know? And I think I want to wear something super simple, just a simple dress with lace, but I want my bridesmaids to wear, like, blush pink. What do you think?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I stared down at the menu, pretending to read. Honestly, I couldn't focus on anything except her. She wasn't even giving me a chance to speak. "Then, after the wedding, we'll honeymoon in Europe. I think Italy would be perfect," she went on, flipping through the menu now like it didn't even matter what was on it. "Maybe we can spend a few days in Rome, then head to the Amalfi Coast for a while. Wouldn't that be amazing?" I shifted in my seat, trying to find my voice. Wouldn't it be amazing? That was the problem. She wasn't asking me anything. There wasn't a single moment in this conversation where she was trying to figure out what I wanted. It was all about what she wanted, how her dream wedding would go, how she had it all figured out like I was just there to play a supporting role. "Yeah, that sounds great," I managed to say, keeping my tone steady, though I felt anything but calm. The more she talked, the more the pressure built up in my chest. I could feel my hands getting clammy, my breath a little too shallow, like the weight of the moment was too much. And yet I stayed still. I stayed calm. I had to. As the waiter brought our entrees, Olivia shifted gears without missing a beat. "I've been thinking a lot about kids too," she said, her voice all dreamy now. "I think 2 would be perfect, maybe 3 if we're feeling adventurous. I want a girl first, definitely, and then a boy. We'll get a house with a backyard. And, oh, can you imagine what our family will look like? I just can't wait to build it with you." I smiled again, tighter this time. Inside, I was screaming. This wasn't us. This wasn't my vision. This was her fantasy, and I was just another character in it. The main course came and went, her talking nonstop as if I was just a backdrop to her life. I barely ate, pushing the food around on my plate, the taste lost on me. Every word out of her mouth just sounded more hollow. She wasn't even hearing me, not really. She was so focused on the idea of what we could be. She didn't care to know who I was or what I wanted. Then the dessert arrived. A chocolate mousse that looked so perfect it almost made me sick. I waited until the waiter was out of sight, then stood up slowly. My heart was pounding in my chest. Olivia's eyes went wide with excitement. She set her fork down with a clink. "Oh my God. Is this it? Are you finally?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out the velvet ring box. She gasped, her eyes bright with anticipation. I opened it. Empty. Her smile faltered, her eyes darting from the box back to my face, and then the smile dropped entirely. The silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable. Her face went pale. For a second, I thought she might say something, but the words never came. She just blinked, her mouth hanging open like she was waiting for me to explain. But there was no explanation coming. I closed the box slowly, placed it down on the table, and met her eyes. "Olivia, I can't do this." Her face twisted, confusion mixing with disbelief. "What? What do you mean? This isn't funny. Evan, you can't." I held up a hand to stop her. "I mean, I can't marry you. Not like this." Her eyes burned with shock, but she didn't say anything. The room seemed to shrink around us, the noise from the other tables fading into the background as she stared at me, as if trying to process what I had just said. I sat back down, my stomach tight but my resolve stronger than it had ever been. This was it. I wasn't playing this game anymore. Olivia's hands shook as she stared at the empty box in front of her. Her lips parted, and I could see her brain working overtime, trying to make sense of what had just happened. For a moment, she didn't speak. She just blinked at me like she was waiting for me to fix it, waiting for me to tell her it was some sick joke. But I wasn't joking. I took a slow breath, steadying myself. I could feel the weight of all the eyes in the restaurant on us, but I wasn't going to let that stop me. I wasn't going to back down. "Olivia," I said, my voice calm, though I could hear the tightness in it. This isn't how it's supposed to be." She opened her mouth to say something, but I raised my hand, cutting her off. I couldn't let her interrupt this. "Not now. You've been talking about us like we're just some checklist item for you," I continued. "You want the ring, the wedding, the life, but you never cared about me. Not really. Not about who I am or what I want. You just want the idea of me, the way it fits into your plan." She scoffed, shaking her head like I was the one who didn't get it. "That's not true," she said, her voice shaking now. "I love you, Evan. You know I do. I'm just ready for the next step. I've been waiting for you to catch up." "Waiting for me to catch up?" I leaned in slightly, my voice dropping low. "Olivia, you've been pushing. From day one, you've been pushing me. You want everything to fit your perfect timeline, and when I didn't fall in line, you threw me an ultimatum. You didn't give me a choice. You gave me a deadline." Her face flushed with color, the shock starting to turn to anger. I could see her struggling to hold it together, her hands gripping the edge of the table, her jaw clenched tight. The tension in the air thickened, and I realized just how much the whole restaurant had quieted, their eyes lingering on us, on her. "You don't get it, do you?" she spat, voice rising now. "You're humiliating me. You promised. You promised we were going to build this life together. And now you're just—" I shook my head, cutting her off. "I'm not the one doing this, Olivia. You are. This isn't love. This is a transaction to you. You treated it like a deal, like a business arrangement. Propose by the end of the month or we're done." Her eyes went wide with disbelief, like she was trying to understand what I was saying, but the anger was already bubbling over. "How dare you? How dare you do this to me in front of all these people? You think this is fair? You're the one who's been stringing me along. Evan, I've been waiting on you, and now you're just gonna throw it all away? What the hell is wrong with you?" I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. I just sat there, still, meeting her gaze, letting her words wash over me. "I'm not throwing anything away, Olivia," I said, my voice steady. "I'm just walking away. You were never really listening to me, to us. You wanted me to fit into your plan, and I can't do that anymore. I'm not proposing because I'm not ready to marry someone who thinks I'm just another part of the plan." Her face twisted, and I could see the humiliation creeping in now, coloring her features. She was losing control, and it wasn't just the shock. It was the anger, the frustration of being exposed for something she hadn't wanted to admit to herself. "You think you're better than me now?" she yelled, voice cracking. "You think I'm some kind of fool? I'm not going to just sit here and let you do this to me. Evan, I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. You're a coward." Her words stung, but I didn't let them show. I knew this would happen. I'd expected it. The rage, the shame, the desperate need to deflect. She wasn't going to take this lying down. "Do whatever you need to do, Olivia," I said calmly, my words cutting through the noise of the restaurant. "But I'm done. I'm not your stepping stone anymore. I'm not your checklist. I'm not going to be part of your plan if you can't even see me for who I am." I stood up slowly, pushing my chair back, the scrape of it against the floor loud in the stillness. Her eyes were wide now, but there was no more shock, just raw, burning anger. She started to stand too, but I turned to walk away, taking slow, deliberate steps toward the exit. "Evan, don't you dare walk away from me. Don't you dare." she started, but I didn't look back. I wasn't going to let her drag me back into that web of control. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into feeling guilty or weak. I had made my decision, and for the first time in a long time, I was at peace with it. The door swung open as I stepped outside, the cold air biting at my skin. I took a deep breath, standing there for a moment. The weight I had been carrying for so long finally lifted, and I didn't look back. As soon as I took that first step toward the door, I heard Olivia scream my name, sharp and furious. "Evan, don't you dare walk away from me." Her voice cracked with a mix of anger and desperation. It was like she couldn't believe what was happening, like she still thought I was going to turn around and fix it all. I didn't, but she wasn't done. I heard the clink of glass, followed by a whoosh of air, and I barely had time to react. A wine glass sailed through the air, missing me by inches, crashing against the floor with a loud shatter. Red liquid splashed onto the white tablecloth, staining it with the kind of mess that only someone like Olivia could create. The restaurant froze. People turned in their seats, eyes wide, murmurs running through the crowd. I didn't move, didn't flinch. I just kept walking. Olivia wasn't finished, though. Her chest was heaving, her face twisted in rage, the tears starting to form but not quite falling. She shot up from her seat and came at me, her hands trembling as she grabbed the edge of the table, her voice rising like a screech. "You think you can just destroy everything, Evan? You think you can walk away from me like this? You're a coward." Her words hit like a slap, but I didn't react. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. She wasn't going to break me, no matter how much she screamed or how much she tried to tear me apart. Then, in a blur of motion, she flipped the table. It happened fast. 1 minute, she was standing there, shaking with fury, and the next, the whole damn table was in the air. Dishes, glasses, silverware, everything, crashed to the ground in a deafening clatter. The candles went flying, sending flickers of flame that burned out almost immediately. The crowd gasped. The chaos was so intense that for a second, it felt like time itself had frozen, like no one could figure out what to do next. Some people stood up, phones already out, recording the disaster. Some of them were laughing nervously, some just staring, not sure whether this was some elaborate prank or if Olivia had truly lost it. I just stood there, watching it all unfold, a little numb. Olivia was screaming now, her words lost in the noise. She was red-faced, her fists clenched at her sides, and I could see her chest rising and falling with the kind of breathing that came from pure panic. "You ruined me. You ruined everything. Evan, you're nothing but a manipulator. I trusted you." The restaurant staff rushed over, but it didn't matter. They didn't know what to do. Olivia was a force of nature now, tearing through the wreckage like a hurricane, throwing her hands in the air, her voice high-pitched with raw, unfiltered rage. I didn't move. I didn't need to. I had made my choice. She had made hers. Now it was all just noise. 2 security guards appeared, trying to calm her down, but Olivia wasn't having any of it. She shoved past one of them, her face twisted with humiliation and fury. "Get your hands off me. I'm not going anywhere." The manager came rushing over then, his face pale with a mix of concern and disbelief. "Ma'am, you need to leave. Now." Olivia spun toward him, tears finally streaming down her cheeks. "You don't get it, okay? He just walked away from me. He's the one who humiliated me. Him." She pointed a shaking finger at me, her voice cracking under the weight of everything crashing down around her. The security guards stepped in again, this time more forcefully. One of them tried to guide Olivia toward the door, but she wrenched away, her sobs turning to angry shouts. "I'm not leaving. He can't just do this to me." It wasn't pretty. It wasn't graceful. But I was done. I turned, making my way back to my seat. The room still buzzed with the chaos she had left behind, the soft clinking of glasses now replaced by her shouts echoing down the hall. The crowd had turned their attention back to their meals, to the spectacle, but none of them were really looking at me. I sat down, picked up my fork, and stared at the untouched dessert in front of me. The chocolate mousse, perfect and rich, just like everything else tonight had been perfect. right up until the moment I stood up. I cut a small piece and brought it to my mouth. The taste was smooth, velvety, a contrast to the mess that had just unfolded. I wasn't sure how I felt. There was no regret, no guilt, just this weird sense of calm, like I had finally done what I needed to do. Olivia's shouts faded as the security team escorted her out. I could hear her still through the walls, but I didn't care. I pushed the empty wine glass out of the way, enjoying the silence that had returned to the restaurant. It was over, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could finally breathe. I took another bite of dessert, ignoring the gawking patrons, and let myself savor the taste of freedom. I woke up the next morning with a headache, the kind that lingers from a night of bad decisions or too much alcohol. My phone was buzzing on the nightstand, and I reached for it without even thinking, squinting at the bright screen. The first text was from my mom. "Are you okay? I saw the video. What happened?" Then another from my friend Dave. "Dude, what the hell? Is everything all right? I'm seeing this everywhere." And another from my aunt, who I hadn't heard from in ages. "I just saw the video. I can't believe what you did to Olivia. Are you really okay?" I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake off the grogginess. I had hoped the night would feel distant by now, but it was like the whole damn world had seen it. The breakup, the meltdown, it had gone viral. Everyone was talking about it. I checked my notifications, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all flooded with mentions of me, the restaurant, Olivia, people debating whether I was right or wrong. The video was everywhere. Some people called me a hero. Others called me a coward. I even saw a few posts accusing me of being manipulative. It felt like a slow-motion train wreck that I couldn't stop, and I was just stuck watching it all unfold. I skimmed through a few comments, most of them mocking Olivia's meltdown. Others were attacking me. People had no idea what had led up to the scene. They didn't know what had been going on between us, just that I'd humiliated her in front of a crowd. Olivia's friends were especially vocal. Her best friend, Sarah, posted a long rant about how I'd taken advantage of Olivia, how I'd used her trust and destroyed her in front of the world. She called me cruel and selfish, accusing me of manipulating her for my own gain. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Sarah had never liked me, always thought I wasn't good enough for Olivia, and now I was the villain in her eyes. Of course, she was going to side with Olivia. I kept scrolling, but the weight of the comments was getting to me. Some of the posts were outright vicious. It felt like people were piling on, most of them just looking for someone to blame. Olivia's friends were angry, and they had the whole internet behind them as far as I could tell. Then there was the message from my brother, Tom. He was usually the level-headed one. "Hey man, I've seen the videos. I'm not sure what happened, but you might want to think about the fallout from this. Everyone's talking about it. You don't want this to spiral out of control." It made me pause. He wasn't accusing me of anything, but the hint of concern in his words was enough to make me feel uneasy. Maybe I should have been more careful. Maybe I should have handled things differently. But I knew, deep down, I'd done what was right for me. I'd made the decision that had been weighing on me for months. I wasn't about to apologize for it. I typed a quick response to Tom. "I know, man. I get it. But I had to do it. It wasn't going to work out. I just needed to end it." I didn't hear back from him right away, but I wasn't expecting a deep conversation. I knew my brother would always have my back, even if he didn't agree with how I did things. I put the phone down for a minute and just sat there, letting the silence sink in. The noise from the internet, the voices in my head, the criticism, it all felt like it was closing in on me. But despite it all, I didn't feel bad. I felt a little bit of guilt, maybe. Maybe it was the way I did it or the way it all went down. But the actual decision to walk away from Olivia, that felt right. It had to happen. I went to the kitchen, made some coffee, and sat by the window, trying to focus on the morning. The world outside was calm, the sun just starting to rise. It felt like a new start, even if the rest of my life had suddenly become an open book for everyone to judge. I wasn't going to let their opinions dictate how I felt about what I'd done. They didn't know the full story. They didn't know how Olivia had made me feel. They didn't know how she'd pressured me, manipulated me, and treated me like some sort of accessory to her perfect life. I wasn't a villain. I was just someone who got out when he knew he couldn't keep pretending anymore. And if the world wanted to hate me for it, so be it. I checked my phone again, saw the messages still piling up, but I didn't answer. The more I thought about it, the less I cared. I'd already made my choice, and nothing was going to change that. The next morning, just when I thought things might start to calm down, the real mess came rolling in. It was a letter, a thick one. I could tell the moment I saw the envelope, it wasn't some routine piece of mail. I ripped it open, half expecting it to be some kind of bill or junk. Instead, it was a cease and desist. Olivia's lawyer, of course. She had somehow found a way to turn her public meltdown into a case. The letter demanded that I remove any online content about the breakup, everything, including the viral video, and pay for the emotional distress I had caused her. The lawyer's tone was formal, threatening, like I was some kind of criminal for simply ending a relationship. They said if I didn't comply, they would take further legal action. I read through the letter twice, just to make sure I wasn't missing something. Sure enough, I wasn't. This was as absurd as it sounded. They were trying to turn this into a lawsuit for hurting her feelings. I didn't know whether to laugh or throw the thing out the window, but I wasn't about to deal with it alone. I grabbed my phone and texted Sarah. She was my lawyer, my friend, and probably the only person who could make sense of this madness. She replied right away, asking me to come by the office. When I got there, I could already hear her laughing before I even sat down. "This is a joke, right?" she said, still chuckling as I handed her the letter. She skimmed it, shaking her head in disbelief. "I mean, they're really going for it, huh?" she said, her voice full of sarcasm. "This is the kind of thing you'd expect from a bad TV drama, not real life. Emotional distress? Are they kidding?" I sat across from her, trying to stay calm. I felt a little anxious. This was the kind of thing that could get messy, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for another round of Olivia's drama. But Sarah wasn't worried. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "Here's the deal, Evan. There's no case here. None. Breaking up with someone in a public place is not illegal. And if it was, there's no law saying you have to protect someone's feelings after a breakup. You didn't harass her. You didn't cause any physical harm. You didn't even really do anything wrong." I let out a breath, relieved. The letter was just a threat, an attempt to scare me into backing down. Sarah grabbed a pen and started drafting a response, her tone sharp and confident. "We'll tell them to shove it. There's no basis for a lawsuit, and you don't owe her a dime. In fact, the only emotional distress here is the fact that she's been putting this whole relationship on a pedestal for so long, and now it's crumbling. But that's not your problem anymore." I watched her type as she spoke, her fingers flying over the keys like she'd done this a million times. It was nice to have someone like Sarah on my side. She wasn't afraid of confrontation, and she wasn't about to let Olivia or anyone else push me around. When she was done, Sarah printed out the letter, her eyes still smirking. "We'll send this back, and if they try to escalate it, let them. It'll get thrown out. No judge in their right mind is going to entertain this kind of nonsense. It's a waste of time and money." I felt my shoulders relax for the first time in days. "Thanks," I said, half grinning. "I didn't know what to do with that thing." "Don't worry about it," she replied, handing me the letter. "Let her lawyer send all the angry emails they want. You did nothing wrong, and they're not going to get anywhere." I stuffed the letter into my bag, feeling lighter than I had in days. Sarah was right, this wasn't my problem. Olivia had made her choices, and now she was trying to manipulate me into fixing things. But I wasn't going to let that happen. On the drive home, I thought about everything that had happened over the past week, the breakup, the fallout, the threats. I wasn't going to let Olivia drag me back into her world of manipulation. I'd made my decision, and no amount of legal threats was going to change that. I had already moved on, and I wasn't looking back. When I got home, I tossed the letter on the counter and sat down. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel angry. I just felt relieved. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again. The weight of it all, the pressure, the expectations was finally gone. And I wasn't going to let Olivia, or anyone else, make me feel like I owed them anything anymore. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone when I heard the knock. At first, I didn't register it. I thought maybe it was a neighbor, maybe someone selling something, maybe even just another package. But when the knock came again, more insistent, I knew exactly who it was. I sighed, dropped my phone on the coffee table, and stood up. The moment I opened the door, there they were, Olivia, standing on the doorstep with Sarah at her side. Olivia's eyes were red, like she had been crying for hours. Her makeup was smudged, and she had that look in her eyes that I'd seen before. The desperation, the plea that always came when things were slipping away from her. "Evan," she started, her voice trembling. "Please, please, can we talk? I just need closure. I can't move on like this." Sarah stood slightly behind her, arms crossed, her face unreadable. She didn't look surprised. She wasn't here for emotional support. She was here to make sure things stayed civil, I guessed. But I wasn't buying the whole act. This wasn't about closure for Olivia. It was about keeping control. I didn't invite them in. I didn't have to. They knew the door was open if they wanted to come in. But I wasn't about to make this easier for either of them. "You've got 5 minutes," I said, my voice flat. Olivia's eyes flickered with relief, like she thought she had me on the edge of something. But I was already over it. I'd already made my peace with everything. I wasn't about to cave in again. She stepped in without waiting for permission, Sarah following behind her, arms still crossed. Olivia closed the door gently behind her, like she thought if she didn't make a sound, it wouldn't be as real. "Evan," she began, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry. I know I messed up. I don't know what I was thinking. I was so scared of losing you. I thought if I pushed, if I made you see how much I wanted this, you'd come around. But I see now. I see that I was wrong." Her words were soft, like she was trying to make it sound like she'd finally seen the light. But I wasn't fooled. This wasn't some sudden epiphany. This was her trying to get me back, trying to manipulate me into feeling bad for her. "You really don't get it, do you?" I said, my voice colder than I wanted it to be. But the anger was still there, even if I'd buried it. "You can't just apologize and expect me to forget what you did. You don't get to tear everything down, put me on some deadline, and then cry your way back into my life." She reached out, her hand shaking as she tried to grab mine, but I pulled it away before she could touch me. "Evan, please. I love you. I've always loved you. I was scared. I thought if I didn't force you to make a decision, you'd never take me seriously. But I see now." I cut her off. "You see now that you screwed up? Yeah, I think you do. But that's not enough." I shook my head slowly. "You can't just force someone to love you. You can't make them marry you because you're afraid of being alone or because everyone else is getting what they want. I'm not some prize you get because you stuck it out long enough. I'm not a checklist item." Olivia's eyes were wide, her face going pale. She looked like she was about to cry again. She took a step closer, but I stepped back, creating space. "Evan, please, just another chance. I can change. I swear. I'll stop pressuring you. We can work this out. We can be happy. I know we can." I looked at her, at the way her hands were trembling, the tears starting to fall again. And for a moment I almost felt bad. But then I remembered everything, the way she always made it about her, the way I was just a character in her perfect vision of the future. "No," I said firmly. "This isn't about a second chance. It's about respect. You didn't respect me, Olivia. You didn't respect us. And I'm done pretending that this is something I want to fix. It's over." Olivia's face twisted, the realization sinking in like a stone. She took a step back, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "You're really done, aren't you?" she whispered. "I'm done," I said, my voice steady, even if it was hard to keep it that way. "I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to be your safety net, your backup plan. I need to move on, and so do you." Olivia's eyes shifted to Sarah, almost pleading. Sarah didn't say anything, but her posture was firm. She wasn't about to step in. "I'm sorry, Olivia," I said, watching her try to gather herself. "I'm not coming back. This is over. You need to let it go. For a second, she looked like she might argue or maybe even break down again. But then she just nodded, her shoulders slumping. I stepped toward the door. "I'll show you out." Olivia didn't say anything else. She turned Sarah right behind her. As they walked to the door, I felt a strange sense of finality, like this was the last time I'd ever have to face this. When I closed the door behind them, I leaned against it for a moment, letting the silence fill the space. Felt different now, cleaner, clearer. I wasn't looking back anymore. And this time, it was really over. After Olivia left that last time, it felt like I could finally take a deep breath. It wasn't relief at first. It was just quiet. The kind of quiet that settles in when a storm passes and the world around you is still picking up the pieces. The noise of it all, the drama, the arguments, the expectations, had been replaced with nothing. And that nothing felt like freedom. I didn't hear from her again. No texts, no calls, no apologies. Slowly, I started noticing her social media accounts disappearing. Her Instagram, her Facebook, everything she'd built around this perfect version of her life, gone. Like she was trying to erase the last few months, trying to erase me from her story. And in a way, I respected that. It was a clean break. But it also felt like a signal, like the end of an era. For her, maybe it was about starting fresh. But for me, it was just more of the same, her life crumbling under the weight of her own actions. She wasn't ready to face the truth. Not yet. And maybe she never would be. For me, though, it was a turning point. The weight that had been pressing on my chest for so long was finally gone. I threw myself into work, into things I'd put off, and just started focusing on building up the parts of my life I'd neglected. I didn't have to ask for anyone's permission anymore. A few months later, I started dating again. It was slow at first, just meeting people, seeing if there was any real connection. I wasn't in a rush. The last thing I wanted was to end up in another relationship where someone else's timeline dictated my life. I needed to figure out who I was without someone else's vision for me getting in the way. It wasn't perfect. Dating again felt like a strange experiment after everything I'd gone through. But I took my time, listened to what I wanted, and didn't settle for anything less than what felt right. I learned a lot about myself in the process, about my own fears, my own boundaries, and my own needs. Looking back now, I'm amazed at how far I've come. I found peace in the little things. No more waiting for someone else's approval. No more constant pressure. It's just me, and I'm finally okay with that. I'm happier now in a way I didn't think was possible, because for the first time in a long time, I'm living on my terms. I've learned my lesson. I'll never let anyone put me in a position like that again. Not for love, not for anything. I've learned that you can't force something that isn't meant to be, and you can't let someone else's dreams become your own. And honestly, that's more than enough for me.